Let me get to Keith Fitz-Gerald. Keith, you look at individual stocks, you invest in them. One thing for sure, during President Trump's era, many record highs. During Joe Biden's era, the stock market hitting record highs over and over again. They've both had vibrant markets, depending on which point on the calendar, because, of course, the pandemic came through and it was a real mess. But when you look at these two candidates, is it fair to say that you can distill how the markets might fare better in the next 4 years or worse?
No, I don't think you can, and here's why. Is coming into short-term election psychology, you get one side promising a carrot and one side promising a stick. That volatility tends to vanish relatively quickly, which is, to your point, exactly why I look for great companies putting up numbers despite it all, no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's running Congress, no matter what the Fed does. You don't look at
politics. You keep that out of your efforts and your list of what matters to an individual stock and whether you buy it.
And yes, and I'll tell you why, is because I don't want to put up with the schlock, the hype, and the nonsense. What happened to betting on Americans and a brighter future for everybody?
Yes, exactly.
Those are the things that are going to make the profits show up.
Well, it sure looks like that's what investors have been doing, because the markets continue to hit record highs, at least for the S&P and the NASDAQ. But Keith, there are issues politically that certain presidents make that could affect sectors that I know you invest in. You have piled in on NVIDIA and some of the chip stocks. And clearly, the CHIPS Act, which has onshored many chip fabrication plants back to the United States, not all of them, but we could put up a map. I mean, Arizona, Ohio, Texas, you've got Texas Instruments, you've got Taiwan Semi, Global Foundries, Micron, Samsung. They're all Intel starting to build back in the United States. Isn't that helpful for a stock?
Well, of course it is, because here's the thing, is if that gives you a more direct path to profits, again, take politics out of it. Money goes to where it's treated best. And if that helps the money be treated better, then I'm all over it with regard to the company. But don't forget, it worked the other way for many years when we offshored all that stuff. So history suggests that the markets move in great big cycles, and that's not a 4-term or 4-year idea. That's a multi-decade perspective. So it makes sense to take that into account when you're looking at these companies and the technology they build.
There was one word, Keith, John, rather, that we did not hear that much about, and that was infrastructure. Remember the whole infrastructure spending bill? And that, of course, is supposed to create lots of jobs, which we have lots of jobs at the moment, but we're looking for quality, high-paying jobs, aren't we?
That's right. You could get that in construction, okay, from infrastructure. You can get that from the steel and whatnot and cement that goes into repairing roadways. So that would be very much a positive for employment growth. It also helps the economy. It helps improve productivity if the infrastructure improvements are such that you're able to ship goods around more quickly and more securely. So, yeah, that is important. I want to bring up another thing, though, the Inflation Reduction Act and all of these subsidies that have been promised to the electric vehicle industry, to the manufacturer of batteries, windmills and the like. I think that's incredibly important. And there is a chance that under Donald Trump, those subsidies might be gone. So a lot of these companies, these auto companies, may suddenly find out, my goodness, that support has disappeared.
Well, that's one piece of the spending. Both of these gentlemen have spent, I hate the analogy like drunken sailors, because I love sailors, and that's not very nice. But I got to tell you, John, Keith, it's a lot to take in. You have encapsulated much of it. Thank you so very much. All right, the first historic debate between two U.S. presidents raising major questions about the fitness of the sitting president. The CNN presidential debate setting off a totally new debate. Do the Democrats need to find a new candidate?